and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kim Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for tuning in to The Cold Truth. I am Kim Cole. Now, as promised, yesterday afternoon we discussed the progress between both majority groups, the African community as well as the East Indian community. So we will definitely be continuing our discussion this afternoon as it relates to race and empowerment. I must remind you that we are streaming live at facebook.com/thecoldtruth, and our telephone lines will be open pretty soon, 622-9785 or 628-6093. Now, before I introduce my guest to you again this afternoon, Mr. Keenan Monroe, I do have a few videos that I would like for my director to play in a minute, whereby I had a representative from the GOPIO, the local arm of GOPIO, Mr. Karan Nanku, and he in fact shed some light as it relates to his role and the role of his organization, which is the global organization of people for people of Indian origin. But before I get to that clip, good afternoon, Keenan.
Once again, thank you for having me in the program. Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks for viewing us today.
Right. So yesterday we left off at Rasta City versus Muslim and all of that. But somewhere in the discussion, the topic of race and politics came up.
Politics, yes.
Race and politics. In addition to that, we made mention of, the factors that would have definitely influenced the progress of the East Indian community. We also had a couple interesting calls after the program yesterday evening, and I'm reminding the caller yesterday afternoon, I did not take your name, unfortunately, I did not take your information, but I invite you to call back, and you had some very interesting views in terms of the rationale or the reasoning behind the progress of the East Indian community. But before we get into it, I want to touch on the organizations. Mr. Nanku stated that, and you will see what Mr. Nanku said in a short, but I've been receiving a lot of questions, in terms of why is there a need for a Black Caucus movement, or not just a Black Caucus movement. Why is there a need, or is there a need for a group to represent the interests of the African community? What would be your answer to that question?
Well, this is a question that I have been asked more times than I care to remember, more times than I care to answer. And simple, because my question always has to be answered with a question. That's the sad reality of how this question has to be answered. Because anytime anyone asks me, why should there be a group to represent the African community? Why are we pushing this divisiveness? Why are we trying to split Trinidad and Tobago? That's what I'm always faced with. And it's only one answer I could give them, which is a question.
Why not?
Why is there other groups doing it? And why you all don't have a problem with the other groups? Or why you all not harassing the other groups to close down?
To close down the organization.
Simple. Because as far as I see it, I think we have a call. Oh, we'll start with
no, not yet.
Oh,
but
all right. As far as I see it, if you're faced with an army with guns, you cannot walk into that fight with a penknife.
Well, you cannot. The old adage goes, you can't take a knife to a gunfight.
You can't. And if you have people that are properly well armed with unity, with a strategic, clear directive of themselves being superior, because understand something, Kim. As far as I see, and I understand, and I comprehend the nature of these groups, they are not pushing ahead of equity or equality. They are pushing ahead for themselves to be in front.
Superiority.
So it's white supremacy, Chinese supremacy, East Indian supremacy, Syrian supremacy. And it is as it should be.
And African inferiority.
And I'll go as far as to say this. We understand that there's an agenda there in those other communities, but we can't even talk about black equality.
Let alone black equity.
But we accept the ethnic superiority agenda of others, and we accept it to be social and cultural and financial norms in our society. But we are not willing to accept a group pushing African equity or equality.
Or empowerment. I mean, let's start with the empowerment.
Well, you see, anytime you start the discussion about equity and equality, then you need to deal with empowerment.
Absolutely.
Because the whole modus operandi of how groups have been able to build themselves in this country has to do with that. It has to do with themselves getting favor, them getting opportunities. Just yesterday we spoke about it, where you know, when faced with a government minister, him being shocked and surprised and saying, wait, you all get the equipment before the contract? Because that is now the norm. The norm is, let me give you, although you don't have anything to prove, no track record, nothing, just give it to you. I mean, that is the reality, the harsh reality of what we are faced with. And, you know, and when we speak about that reality being a part and parcel of a system that needs to be put in place now to empower the African community, because this is what has been in place for decades, eons in Trinidad and Tobago, empowering the others. Now it's a point of contention. It's talk about, oh, well, you're all expecting nepotism, you're all expecting handouts and favors. Just yesterday, we were speaking about that, you know. And again, you know, if in all fairness, let's look at what it entails to empower us and what would be the outcome of empowering us.
Right, but before we get, you know, deeper into the discussion, I would like to put it into perspective for our viewing audience. So I'm going to ask my director to please play clip 1.
Oh, fantastic.
East Indian community and economic empowerment. Could you elaborate on that for me, please? And tell me, when you juxtapose that to the African community, is it the same thing? And I'll take the call after Mr. Nanku gives his contribution.
Well, the culture is that the East Indian descendant believes in economic power. And you would see that. Business, agriculture, and so on. You will notice that the African person in this country especially believe in believe in political power. And that is one of the reasons you see, if you look at election time, the majority of people who vote are African people. History says that. The figures are there. The figures are there for those who will calculate it. It's there. The issue of who they vote for is not the issue at this point, but in direct answer to your question, more African people go out to vote than Indian people. And that tells you something.
Do you think that the African community has been represented well politically?
I am not quite sure, and the reason I will say that is because of the fact, whereas I have seen in this country, and history will say it, and I can analyze it, and for those of us who want to be honest, we'll notice. There are many people of African descent who want to get into the parliament. Whether they represent the interests of their people is another question. And that's what the question is. They represent their own interests many times. It happens with Indian people also.
But not as much as the
if it is that African people in the parliament represented the interests of their people, Laventil would not have been as it is today. Bagatelle would not have been as it is today. Morva would not have been as it is today, and other places. If you look at Valsayn, you look at Lange Park, you look at many of those those upper class housing areas, you would see it is not predominantly African. Yet, history would show you that most of the parliamentarians, past and present in this country, has been African people.
Empress.
Well, there it is.
Back. There it is. Now, this is the president of the GOPIO, the Trinidad arm of the GOPIO, Mr. Karan Nanku, who had some very, interesting words and a very clear perspective and direction as it relates to race and politics. Keenan, what have you drawn? I think this would have been the first time that you saw this clip. What have you drawn from that?
Yeah, this is the first time I looked at it, I heard about it. Unfortunately, I couldn't have seen the program that day. I'm glad that I'm seeing it here now, fresh, with a whole fresh confluence of thoughts coming to my head. But I'm in 100% agreement with what he's saying, and I have to be, because I'll tell you the cold truth. The reality of it is that when I am hearing my people and persons that look like me and identify as I do, as a person of African descent, you're hearing them saying, boss, I getting more pressure now than I got before. And here the sad reality. Now, brothers and sisters out there, guys, I want you all to listen to this and tell me if something about this isn't resonating inside of you. What they are telling me is that, boy, you know, at least in the other people time, I was getting some crumbs. I wasn't getting treated fairly, you know, but I was getting crumbs. Now I ain't getting anything, nothing for me. So you dealing with a people now that they're feeling so disenchanted by the two groups that's supposed to be looking after the country that they rather crumbs, right now, they rather fight for crumbs because the alternative to crumbs is nothing. But Kim, we must ask a fundamental question inside of there that we've been asking yesterday, and you take the other side of it. So I want to know if that's still your position. No, because you're saying that the job is the job of the politicians, right? In which I guess the brother here also stated, where if they had the proper political representation, then the African community would not be in the state it is in. But I want to ask you all a question, a fair question in my opinion. Who think it is biased? Well, that may be their opinion. Right. But we're looking at the fact that there has not been a political will to help empower the African community. Now, empower doesn't mean fix the roads, because in fixing the roads is doing what you're supposed to do for the country. Now, who you give the contract to fix the roads, right? That is where you deal with empowerment. Because you can't tell me when Rastaman up in Lavantil representing the African people in a meeting we were in with him saying, but I'm doing for Lavantil. But what are you talking about? Because we were in a meeting, as a, you know, I can't tell the details of the meeting because it was a meeting. But I'll tell you this, when you meet some of them people out there in positions, and they're talking about the helping people in Lavantil. They're saying, but look, I'm paving the road in Lavantil. And when you ask them, who is the person paving the road? It's somebody from South. Somebody from South that doesn't have the same look or ethnic group as them up there. And when you see somebody, and I mean, when somebody, a child, going up there looking and seeing somebody else not looking like them doing the work, on that level, that becomes their norm. So they don't identify with that. So what about them now? Will grow up to think, wait boy, I want to grow up and own 2 trucks and this and that, and I feel I can do that because they're looking and they're seeing the man who pulling up in a BMW who own the trucks. And he ain't looking like him, he ain't looking like me, I'm not looking like that person pulling up in that. So then what about that is for me to identify, to work towards that. But yet still, when I'm growing up in an area and I see a BMW pulling up with somebody looking like me, that is not the profession that they're having. And that is a big problem in the whole system, that creating that revolving door, that creating the recidivism in the prison system, that creating the problems in the schools where children in those impoverished areas, in those areas predominantly African, they're not even interested in going and listening to that, because hear what they're saying now, and I just tap in and I just listen. They're saying, but that teacher who telling me to study, I know what they're getting, you know, and I know the fella by me, he getting 9 a day. So what's she telling me to study for what? So then there's the loss of hope. But then let's look at the responsibility of the persons in these areas. Those same guys, because I could tell you this. I know several instances where those gentlemen, that those young people looking up to, those guys got contracts. They were afforded. Those are probably the only people that are of African descent that is get something. Them so-called community leaders and those guys that that people come out and march for when it is the police do what they had to do. After they kill how much people and police deal with them, then the whole community come out and march. But what they're really marching for, because those guys, when they get in the contract, they're not taking the money and putting it back in the community. They're not starting up legitimate business and start up, you know, and pulling people and start to build and do it properly. Instead, what you're hearing about, you have to hear about this person ducking, this guy, the work ain't finished, but they had to get the money, and then the work had to do over.
The problem that I have with the distribution of wealth in the communities is this, greed, right? In several instances,
it's greed.
You would have the persons who receive the contracts, who use the political support, who you see
whatever leverage they have to get the contract, they get it.
To get the contract, and I try to keep my discussion as simple as possible for you know, the average Joe to understand. And when they do get the contracts now, if they get a contract that is has a profit margin of $1 million, they take $950,000 for themselves as the boss, and they distribute $50,000 among their team of soldiers of 25 and 30. So in essence, when you put your heart, your soul, everything out to work and all of that, what you get, a pair of sneakers, some jeans. That's it.
No, but that's in best case scenario, you know,
no,
Kim.
But I'm saying, and what I see happening in the communities is politics. The same.
No, well, Kim, sometimes that $950,000 is going towards guns. It's going towards more illicit activity more than anything else to strengthen that position. Instead of them coming out of that position. I know several people who had CPEP contract running, and the gallery and the thing, and they buy a car every other week. You see them in a different car and it's girls. And then when you hear them now, they're talking by pressure, boy, this government thing, they ain't even nothing now, boy. I have to go back and sell thing. And the same group of fellas around them. And they're spinning top in more because them fellas don't know better, you know. They don't know better, so they're just taking that and they're running with it, and it's more bitterness and animosity. So then we at a loggerheads here now. Well, then what is to happen? Because I hear in a portion of the East Indian community saying, you know, you all get, we start off with mud hut and things. Somewhere we start off with mud. We start off and we come together because we didn't get the government support initially, you know.
Mud hut.
Tapia hut and thing. We didn't get the initial support, so we build resilience and we build ourselves peace, and we learn by trial and error, and we go through hardships and we gain it. There's a certain level of a deep-rooted responsibility that comes out of something like that. So we must ask ourselves the question, where do we start to build a level of trust so that when we have organizations, say as the Black Caucus, coming out there to support and rally for persons of African descent to get these contracts, there must be on the other end of the continuum, these guys honing in the skills, making themselves worthy of getting contracts, getting the work done, and building a proper representation for us as a people. The stigma has to be removed, and it starts with us. You can't have a child and your child going out there, and you know you're not giving your child the kind of money to come on with the sneakers and things they're coming on with, and you're allowing that. It can't be part of the solution. That must be part of the problem. And then you want, when the child there, they said, oh, the child was a good boy, and he was good, he used to take care of me. But what that money used to come from, that taking care of you.
And I do have a second clip that I would like to take you to you know, further cement the point. Taking your call.
Kim, I'll tell you. The Black Caucus movement has an agenda to protect the interests of people of their race, which is exactly what is my objective with regard to Go Pure. We must have equality, and we must ensure that people who have worked hard get their just dues.
Yes.
We are the same. We might just belong to two different organizations and belong to two different races, but we are parallel, and that is how we combine ourselves to get success.
Would you support the Black Caucus movement, or do you see
I have always supported them, and I will continue to support them.
Do you see a need for other ethnic groups and other ethnic organizations to support the African community, given the current crime situation it's no secret that majority of the violent crimes are perpetuated by members of the African community,
I'll tell you
particularly
something.
the youths.
I am a counselor myself.
That we know, Mr.
And I have seen a difference in the culture where, in the case of Indian descent, children have a lot more fear and a lot more respect for their parents and elders as opposed to a number of African families. I've seen it.
That's a fact.
And that is one of the problems that creates the issue of crime. Sometimes, I'll tell you something, forgive me.
What are your thoughts on?
No, I mean, it's not my thoughts on that. My thoughts is, what political will could change the culture within the home?
But I mean, not even that. The fact is, I have seen members of the African community, people who have purported themselves to be leaders within the African community, condemn an organization like the Black Caucus Movement. And here it is, you have the head of the Indian organization who is publicly stating that he supports an organization like the Black Caucus Movement, and he's also encouraging members of other ethnic groups to support the African community. What are your thoughts on that juxtaposition?
No, well, I think, you remember the first time I was on your program, I told you, I think we're supposed to get a white man with blue eyes and long flowing hair to come and say, you all need to start a Black Caucus, an organization to look out for black people, and then possibly, hopefully, somewhere along the line, we might get encouraged to do it. But it seems as though when someone that looks like us says it or purports it, there's a level of distrust that we have when we look in the mirror that is projected onto every other African person, that we just can't seem to shake ourselves out of that mistrust and fear for each other, and fear for unity, and fear for what somebody else will think if you join an organization to look after your own self, whereas they're in an organization to look after themselves.
That is looking after them.
That is look after. And it's so well tuned and finely tuned now, that there's a large portion of the other communities that don't even have to be actively involved at this stage. All they need to do is to be themselves, because they've learned to support their own. It is second nature to them. Matter of fact, supporting anyone else outside of their own, they have to consciously do that,
That's right.
Rather than, we on the other hand, we have to consciously study to spend money by our own. Think about it. Think about how much time you just really think about where you're spending your dollar. And then think about where you're spending it, and ask yourself where you're buying your groceries, where you buy your provision, or in the market, do you buy it in the groceries, where you're buying your clothing, where it is you're buying all your amenities. And then ask yourself, do you ask yourself the question, where that dollar going? Do you ask yourself the question, when I spend this dollar, how much of that is coming back into my community? Or how much of that is retained by my community based on where you're giving your dollar?
But even so much, do you think that past organizations have represented the African community well?
The only organization that I have seen that
Without
has
being
worked...
biased.
No, you could say, well, I am biased because it's if something good and something right. So you ain't biased that food is make you healthy. That food, you need food to live.
Yes.
Well, if somebody asks if you need food to live and say, don't be biased.
No,
Do you need food to live? No, you need food to live. We need an organization to look after the people. We need that leadership. The issue is if the people ready for it.
Have we seen that leadership? That's the question.
It has been put forward on a gold platter for us to look at and look at the model. A model has been given.
Okay, but I am going to assert the point that you have had several black organizations, African organizations. Do you feel adequately represented by these interest groups?
Well, the only one that I could safely say that worked towards building that empowerment was the Black Caucus. There's no, and is the Black Caucus. There's no other group working out there. Every other one has an agenda, be it an Islamic agenda, be it a political agenda, be it a monetary agenda. And not a monetary agenda for the community. It's a monetary agenda for themselves.
An individualistic monetary
agenda.
As you say, in that I see your partner Harvey have a program, but I will deal with Harvey at a different date. And before I open the telephone lines, and David don't tell me anything, before I open the telephone lines, I want to have a look at the final clip. final question for you, Mr. Nanku, before we wrap up your segment, because I promised my audience that we're going to touch on what happened to the Black Caucus movement. Do you think that the Emancipation Support Committee has done enough for the African community?
I believe that they have done nothing for the African community. What they do at Emancipation Day celebrations, they have functions. It is a fete. Spending monies and so on. That is not what is needed. What is needed is a change in the culture, a change in the behavior. You know, there was a saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. And if you teach him to fish, you feed him for life. That is what is needed in the African community.
97856286093. The numbers are flashing across your screen. We invite you to be a part of this afternoon's discussion. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live.
Yes. Special good evening to you, Miss Cole.
Good evening, Tanti.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes, Tanti.
Special good evening to you again.
Oh, I was waiting. I say, is anyone special
today,
good evening?
I'm quoting you like Einstein. The alternative to crumbs is nothing. The alternative to crumbs is nothing. And that is what the black African man gets. Crumbs. And as you said, it is nothing. Party come, we go back to party. Come, they go. And they give them little crumbs. And in the end, they have nothing. And Mr. Nanku, I agree with you. Today I'm just going to be short. Mr. Nanku, yes, allegedly, everything is alleged. The Emancipation Committee, yes, they get funding every year. That is a carnival fest every year. Nothing, no organization for the black man but a fest, allegedly. And I'm coming back to how yesterday a very nice caller, supporter of yours, called in. Kudos to you what you said about education. I won't go on to quote you, but I agree with you. The Indian educate their people. But I want to tell you also, the Indian man has money. He has money. He can send his child to the government school like the black African man, but at the end of the day, he has the money to pay for the extra classes. Hence the reason when Sats sit down and talk about 800 scholarship every year. That is where it comes from. And if Ms. Cole does a survey, she will see how many extra classes goes on in the evening. And who can attend them? Not the black African man. And there again, he is at a disadvantage. I'll come back quickly on the business. The Indians have all the business. And you know, about 100,000 millionaire was made on the UNC, alleged. Do you know they have brother, uncle, mamu, nana, all of them? Allegedly, Peter, Paul and Mary Company. And you know what they do? Half in PNM, half in UNC. So when UNC in, that half gets in. So naturally, the party that didn't win, what the hell? The half gets in and they can show it because they support that. And that goes on now. Ms. Cole, you should do a survey in those companies. And that is a fact. This old lady knows a thing or two, you know. And let me come back to the African man. I tell you, the party, that's the only way you will get empowerment. Whoever you put in power has to form. That's the only way, because you don't have the money, and you don't have the uncles that have all the business that could be in both parties, half in UNC, half in PNM. So whoever win, lose, you'll have a win-win situation. You can't go to classes, as the very nice lady said, to empower you educationally like the East Indian empower their people. And you will never have an organization unless the Black Caucus is the only recognized organization that does not have emancipation party and get money from the government every year. I am telling you, the people that go into power, you have to vote, and when you vote, tell them, we want you to put in your manifesto a department to look at what is happening to the black people and empower that race in Trinidad before they become extinct. The other thing, I'm taking a lot of time, Mr. Ward, Mr. Monroe, I consider you to be an elder. An elder comes from the African tribe. Respect what you do for your tribe, your people, your little village, and that is what you're doing for your little village. Sir, today I dub you Mr. Elder Monroe. I day, 2 hours. So I'm going to let other people call in, Miss Monroe. Dance in and out.
Thank you so much for a very high energy contribution this afternoon. Tanti,
on point.
Somebody touched a nerve, but Keenan, you asked that you wanted to make a point.
We're looking at these people in power as the African community now, and I could safely say we are scrutinizing and looking to see these persons that are of African descent do exactly what the persons of East Indian descent did with political will. Well, plain and simple.
I mean, almost 3 years into a government, and what Auntie say makes sense, you know, because I know, and all you know, it's the cold truth, Calco got lots of contracts under the UNC, and look, Calco again come and got contracts
under the PNM. And Calco was a company formed. And see, I have a caller.
Yeah.
You know, let me get that information after the call. I have some information on Calco.
Hi, good afternoon, caller, you're live.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, my dear.
I've been listening to the conversation that have been taking place there, right? I'm an East Indian, right? And we don't depend on the, I just play music, Indian music, the tabla, the dolak, the harmonium. Look, I have in my house, that 2 harmonium, the 3 tabla, dolak, and all that, right? Why it is? The Black Caucus or the African people have to depend on the government to give them African drums. Why they have to depend on the government to give them money for steel pan? If you like something, you will find a way to earn one. You understand? We here are human beings in Trinidad and Tobago. White have to have a Black Caucus and white have to have a GoPO. Right? Everything the Black Caucus fighting for, we needed to. We needed to everything they're fighting for, because we just don't come out and say nothing because it's a police state. The government will lock you up. You will get locked up. You can't come out and talk for your rights, right? The East Indian people is independent, meaning that they don't rush out and do anything, right? They make a little business. They sell a little roti for $25. They wait on the government to give them everything handout, right? You cannot get handout. You have to work. And you will own. Jesus said in the Bible, man shall live by the sweat of thy brow. And each and every human being in Trinidad and Tobago could seek and they shall find. Why not have a Black Caucus? They've waited to take something where you make. They've waited to take away where you work and make. You understand? No, it don't work so. You have to work for what you want. And just a...
Caller.
That's why it's dog in the government service right now.
But listen, I want to ask
Bank
you
interest had dropped, right? No financial interest had dropped. Standard keep going up.
Right.
Everybody keep going up. You understand what I mean? So it's dog. We have to fight for Trinidad and Tobago, not Black Walkers and GoPO. Trinidad and Tobago, the same problem they're going through. What makes he feel? As I said, I'm not going through it. I don't tell nobody nothing. I don't tell nobody. I grieve and I make my little dollar and try to make $1 with a 50 cents. You understand? This is what we have to do, because everything they want, we need it too. And if they have to get, I have to get. You understand? Because I go through the same problem like them. It's just me don't tell nobody nothing. And I don't beg nobody for nothing. It's a 2 shop on both sides where I live. And I never credit a day yet. If I don't have nobody, you know, right? I had a radio program where at Lavantil people was complaining for jobs. I live in Gasparillo, me ashamed to say it. And I used to go in those days quite by dry dock to work for $3 an hour. And when you call them in Lavantil and say have vacancy, no them security company in town, they say, die work. But I live in Gasparillo to go up there to work for $3 an hour. Right? And I'm working 6 to 6 and pulling an extra shift, 7 to 10 and coming back home and coming with $1,000 and change in those days. But they don't want that. But I do it. They want to sit down by the corner and look for easy money. Collect a little weed there, collect a little $10. That's what they want to do. Right? But the life is hard and you have to sweat by thy brow. You can't look for easy money and do illegal things. You understand? And just how they want is just what I want. You understand?
Sorry, let me ask you something. Did you just hold on a minute? Did you just tune into this program? Because your contribution...
Thank you, ma'am.
But asking you a question that you're going, because from the inception of the discussion, and sometimes I like to allow them the opportunity to speak, because there are many other people that share the same sentiments that the last caller shared. When the conversation started, you sat there and you condemned the illicit and the nefarious activities that take place within the communities.
He probably missed it, that's all, don't worry about it.
And that's what I'm saying to you.
Caller, you know what? You're 100% right. I can disagree with the man. But it's not a simple solution as we can't just rely on the government, because we've had successive generations of government taking the wealth of the country and putting it in the hands of persons to create a 1%. And then you have a government that tipped the scale, and they push money into a community. And the fact is, they did it because that is the agenda that they have, because that is within the culture. We couldn't expect anything else from them, because that is they make it clear that is what they are for. The East Indian community. What you want me to do? You want me to help you? I have to help myself. That is their motto. My thing is, as the head of GoPio said, we're looking for political power before we get economic power. And before we get, whereas the other groups, they gain in the other power and then have political power, but we want to have political power first. Then the only power you have when you're seeking that first is your finger. After that, you have nothing. The political power, and that is no real political power, that is, you're a pawn. You have no power, you're a pawn, they're shifting you on a board. Because they shifted to UNC, same people gain. Shifted to PNM, same people gain. Calco was Kalu's car rental. Yeah. And I know the head of, and it's not nice saying here, is alleged, you know. The head of the director of highways in works and infrastructure, Roger Ganesh, his daughter married a guy called Dino from Calco. I ain't talking nothing here that is not public knowledge, and I don't have to say alleged. If you only need to say it, no problem, it is alleged. But all you can go and check yourself. And when you look at after that, all of a sudden, Kalu's car rental, all of a sudden pop up with an infrastructure and works development company, and they move from $5 million to $105 million. It is alleged in 2 years. And then now we are a multi-billion-dollar company that started with no experience whatsoever in the industry of works and infrastructure. And all of a sudden now, they are one of the major players. That is the power of a government, empowering somebody.
But not just that, because if memory serves me right, I remember that they had, and that was in the UNC administration. When UNC was in power, they got that contract. PNM condemned them and say that, oh, they do this and they do a stupid job. And I saw when the PNM government came into power, Kalu got, was it a 400 million?
No, when somebody told me, I lost money with that, you know. Because when somebody told me that, I say, I bet you $1,000 that ain't true. But I lost money from that because I said, it have no way a government could talk a company so much and then give that company that have a track record of bad work, and they have all the files with the bad work, to then come and give them a contract. And worse yet, one for $400 and something million.
And the one for Up on the Beach was, I think it was 100.
And and my point is this, as much as I agree with the caller that, you know what, the wealth should be dispersed equally and based on merit, it is not. So then there must be a counterbalance. But along with the counterbalance, what we are saying is that the mentality must be instilled in the homes, where we bringing up a generation that is responsible, that is working towards the betterment of the collective society, the collective African community, and the wider society. Because trust me, we know we're not living in a bubble. We're living in a nation, and we are all human beings. But they cannot have this kind of disparity going on, and we cannot have our people. You see the angles, it's all angles. We have to look at it internally. We cannot allow it and allow our people to go wrong with that culture, that negative culture that has been perpetuating that steady decline of our people, where we don't even want to stand up for anything now other than a gangster getting killed. That's the reason we're protesting now. That's where we reach. We reach a point when a gangster had to get killed, and that's what making me come out and block up the road and throw garbage and things. That is what making me come out, people. That's
an embarrassment. I mean, it's an
embarrassment.
Hi, good afternoon, caller, you live. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for holding.
Sorry, caller. I get carried away and talk too much.
Hi,
hello,
good day.
Good day.
Yes, my dear, you're live.
I'd like to get to Kim, please.
Yes, caller, you are live.
Yes, good afternoon, Ms. Cole. Good afternoon, Mr. Monroe.
Good afternoon, brother.
Yes. What I'm wondering, yes, good afternoon. What I'm wondering, why are we fighting amongst the East Indian and the Africans, and the 1%ers just moving to the center and sweeping away everything and just leaving us there?
When you get the answer for that, call the cold truth and leave the answer with us, because trust me, we ain't fighting.
But
we came in fighting.
I think that, you know, people are not understanding. You know, I try to break things down as simple as possible. We are not warring the East Indian community.
No.
I cannot. My mother is Indian, as I say. My grandmother is Indian, and one half of my family is East Indian. I am saying to you that the East Indian community has progressed. I, as an African person, or as a lobbyist or an activist for the empowerment of the African community, I am envious of that. I am happy for the progress that they have made. I commend them. I always do it. I salute them. But I want to know how they were able to do it, because I too would like to see that taking place in the African community.
I know we have a call. Just give me 1 second. I want to say this. What we are discussing here in the program and what the Black Caucus has been doing all this time is one thing. We are trying to have that model of empowerment, be it from in the homes, in the economic, from the corporate standpoint, financial, political, economic standpoint, and have that model in the African community. So we understand the injustices that we have to face, and we're facing that, but we also understand the shortcomings we have to deal with internally. And we have to start looking at it from a holistic, spherical perspective, not a convoluted, linear perspective of where is this, and we had to do this to help the... No, there's a lot of change that needs to take place, and that is why an organization is needed, because it's a 360 angle. We need each one of us having each other's back, so we could see all the angles.
But Keenan, let me also
and deal with it from all the angles.
And I'll take the call in 1 second, but let me just put it out there that as much as we say that between the 2010 and 2015 period, we saw the creation of hundreds and thousands of young East Indian millionaires, there is also a great amount of East Indian people who did not. Yes,
that ended up as collateral damage.
Who became collateral damage, I mean, in terms of the politics practiced by the UNC of 2010 and 2015.
Yeah, it was very irresponsible.
So it's not so I call a spade a spade. If I see millions of, if I see the creation, people who were literally broke, there were companies that were on the brink of filing bankruptcy, and they get billion-dollar contracts. You expect me to not, you expect me to keep my mouth shut and not say that?
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Thank you for holding.
Hello.
Thanks for holding.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Good, thank you. You know, Tim, we all know that Africans are meant to be strong and conscious, black and beautiful. But this hasn't happened because we know the curse of slavery and colonialism caused Africans to be ashamed of their blackness and feel unworthy. We know too that politics has failed us. The PNM has failed us and the UNC has failed us. And then we started seeing light because there came the Black Caucus movement, fantastic movement, to raise the black people, to develop them, to uplift them, to give them self-esteem, to help their characters to get better, to educate them, and even to give them economic empowerment. And we saw light and we were so happy about it all. And then all of a sudden, because of deception and treachery, the Black Caucus had to certain people had to withdraw all that they were doing, all the good things that they were doing to us for Black Caucus, they had to withdraw. And because of that now, I mean Mr. Monroe and his family, and because of that, everything went flat. Nothing was happening. But now, we are resilient people, and I know Mr. Monroe is a resilient man. And now, with that vision that he's given to us, we will rise again. We will rise again. We will rise again. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for your contribution. The last time I heard, we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. One set of people rise and everybody else fall flat, you know. So you might want to be, you know, let me come up with something new. But the caller made a very, you heard, what did she say?
No, well, the fact that the Black Caucus is the answer for the African community, and it is not the answer because we say so. It is the answer because the tried and tested formula for any race to move forward is an organization that brings solidarity and coordination nation, to our people.
And you know, I'm going to stop to take this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You live? You there?
Hi, good day.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. A wonderful program. Want to commend you and the gentleman there. About the fourth caller who called before this caller, the woman who said that, you know, East Indian children goes to extra classes and so on. And black children, you know, they can't afford that. I beg to disagree with her because the classes that is given, you know, yes, you have to pay extra, but the thing about it is, in my time, I have seen my co-friends and them, you have their parents would go boat cruise, and they would buy all the expensive clothes and
but I agree with you, caller. The responsibilities in the African household, it is not just messed up, but it is jacked up. It is bad. You see parents depriving their children of basic. I'm saying it because it's the cold truth.
It's true.
I don't do my research. You think I don't see the destruction of the family, the breakdown of the family in the African household? There are a lot of issues. I agree with you that African parents and there is a new generation of African people and African youths who, I mean, simply don't have their priorities in order. I agree with you, but not because they don't have their priorities in order, it means that we don't, it means that, you know, you're just going to condemn and do nothing because guess what? There are effects.
No, I 100% agree with you, Kim, because
serious effects and ramifications.
And that is what that is what we're reeling from, because they are talented, exceptionally talented persons of African descent that could do the job better than most outsiders there. But we, the intelligentsias, they are faced with the stigma from the persons that don't do the right thing.
But it's not just that. Within the African community, we have had waste of time leaders and the elders in the African community. They have a great responsibility when it comes to the position of the African community as it stands now in Trinidad and Tobago.
I absolutely agree. I agree.
And we're going to take this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You're live. Hi, good afternoon. Hello. 622-978-562-8693. Now, before we continue.
Hello.
Caller, you there?
Hello.
You're not there.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Kim. How are you all?
I am fine, thank you.
Kim, putting aside all the politics and everything that people commenting on, where we're looking for some excuse for just making people economically stable, then we're putting that aside. What I'm you ask a question, how does the East Indian community do it, right? Well, from a East Indian point of view, what we do, right, is that we try to continuously improve and make sacrifices. Now, when I say continuously improve, like for instance, as a parent, I would try to put things in place so my children them would have a better standard of living than I did. So let me say I'm probably a fourth generation East Indian living in Trinidad and Tobago. From the indentured, there were continuous improvements in my grandparents, the parents, myself, and then my kids. No, I wasn't financially, my parents wasn't financially equipped to set.
Caller, I do invite you to call back. The call dropped. But as I was saying, there is a short clip that I would, it's just about 3 minutes, because I want to touch briefly on leadership, again, within both communities, East Indian and African communities.
Look at the government right now, there are 29 members, of which 5 are black. You look at the government right now, there are 29 members, of which 5 are black.
And we have some technical difficulties
Seems
there.
we have a little bit of technical difficulties, and whilst the team, get themselves together, we're talking.
Right now, there are 29 members, of which 5 are black.
But I find that very intriguing. He complains, you've complained for the last...
I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out to your intrigues.
Well,
that's what I'm pointing out.
May I respond to the intrigues? What the problem is? For 30 years, we've been claiming there was only one Hindu in the cabinet.
None.
Good, none. And now you have 11.
Yes.
So where I went wrong?
What?
I'm just pointing out the fact that now we didn't have
come on, man. The people can read and understand, man.
Let me go.
Look at you are spreading propaganda that the Hindus take over. We're converting everybody. Even Jack, we're converting.
Oh God,
we're converting the speaker.
Come,
give me a break, man.
Jack. But let me make the point now. Let me make the point. The fact of the matter is, as I said, power changes. And that what we saw in the last election was the power. I think that Sad is correct. That the PNM is an African-based party. The PPP is an Indian-based party. And that when you get power, you try to empower your own. Now, Sad real big in the dance now. Because in the whole dance, you have Anand, that's your boy.
How he could be my boy? He's my lawyer, the Mahasabha lawyer. He's no longer the Mahasabha lawyer. Yeah. He's the Attorney General now. So I had to find a new lawyer.
So let's stop talking.
No, you are making illusions, you see. I want to read your article and push it back in your face, This is what he's saying here. Smash citizens' rights. Denounce his right to choose his political alliance. Deny him the livelihood and make him sure he's pauperized. To them, this is the essence of democracy.
Yes,
to who them? The Hindus? The present government? Give me a break. When you control the whole government, when you control the treasury, you had no complaints.
Yeah, let's get back to the point today that 17 of the top ministries, the most powerful, not sport and tourism, are controlled by East Indians. Sad complained about that when he was on the other side. In fact, Saka has a very powerful position now. We're calling the shots. Nice.
I am not calling the shots. Listen, man, why you must assume that I have time to engage in a daily politics? I am the Secretary General of the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha. Hello. While you have not built a foul cube in Trinidad and Tobago to educate the people, we have 70 schools across the country. We have 175 mandirs. We have 250 pundits. We have 1,000 staff in our school system. Yeah. Can you say that you and your group have ever done anything to improve your community?
I must congratulate you about that. But
I must despise you. I must despise you for not building a foul cube for the African community.
No, I want to answer that. I want to answer that because it's a very fallacious argument. He's the head of a religious organization. Long before Sat was born, there were Hindus here, and they had their mandis. Sat is the continuation of a tradition. I am not a religious leader. I'm not the head of the Catholics.
You're not nothing because you haven't built a school.
And so
you're a professor.
Precisely because I'm nothing, I cannot build a school. Even though we've had a school. But the point is, what you take credit for is part of a tradition of which you've been born into.
Professor,
what were you born into? You were born into Eric Williams. You were born into Welch.
You made a point a while ago about Mr. Maharaj being in now because he has friends in high places, as you assert.
So it were enemies all the time.
So does that mean that you were in because you were part of the PNM for a while, if the argument goes the other way?
No, I was never in, but
So then how can you assert he was in because...
And there we have Mr. Selwyn Kojo, or Professor Selwyn Kojo, who is seen by many as a leader on behalf of the African community. And then we have Satmaraj, who is the head of the Mahasabha. What are your thoughts, Keenan? Leader for leader, pound for pound.
No, but what that shows there is simply what we've been saying all the time. We need to create an organ, because both of them are right in what they are saying, because Sat took over a mantle. But the fact is, her mantle was there for him to take over. Why? Because of our organization, because of our people coming together and pulling together. It's not about one person doing it. It's not about Dr. Selwyn Kojo. It's not about William Monroe doing it. Matter of fact, just now I heard a caller saying that all the Black Caucus wanted is money from the government. Black Caucus never get a cent from the government. We never apply to government and say, government give us a fund. Matter of fact, that very said Satmaraj, the amount of money that he gets every year.
$1 million, look, listen.
Now, if you get $1 million, he shoots and throw that back in your face. You don't want $1 million.
They had the Nagar, down in the Nagar.
It's millions, millions, yeah, millions. You have to talk millions of dollars, millions of dollars. But how he could reach to that position? He could only reach there because of people coordinated. And when he speaks, they're seeing 300,000 and 400,000 people behind him. So that's what, because understand something, people. I want people to get it clear, you know. Politicians are prostitutes, you know. They don't care. They really, you feel they really care about Indian and African? They care about who could affect the vote and who could affect the pocket. And if it is we ain't get our act together to affect the pocket, because the vote, they know they had that in the bag. Because it doesn't matter how it is they treat us, it's the same result. It don't matter. It don't matter how they treat us, it's the same result. So therefore, the only real significant change we could create is with the pocket. And we ain't doing that. We ain't creating the unity to give them fear. We ain't creating the unity for them to start to take note and say we need to start looking at these people. So when it is we came with the idea in the Black Caucus, for not for government to do it, but for us to put our little pittance together, put a $50 here and a $50 this week and pull a $50 here. Just the same model East Indians use. Do a little sacrifice with a little unity in the mix, and you could create something that you could then put out there and rival others, and others to look at you and say, you know what, we have to take note of them now. What happened? Monroe is a smart man. Monroe want to give me money. How it is, you ain't build the grocery yet. You ain't put a cent. A cent. All you do is buy a card, get a card to be a member, to start to be active, but you asking for a building to go up that you're supposed to put money towards. Instead of you ask to rally people and say, hey fellas, people come, let me come together. No, I hate individuals ask, well, I didn't put up this thing yet. So where my $100 went? Ignorance. It's like ignorance ruling our minds and our hearts.
Look, is that ignorance or stupidity? Well, or a lack of shame? I would be embarrassed to ask. Because they go to price. Yeah,
well, you would be, and they're spending 180 something for a card, and then asking price mart, when I go by the counter, where my bag?
No, price mart,
where my discount? Price mart, what are you doing for me? Price mart, this is my structure? No, you're spending money to spend money, and you're comfortable in that scenario.
You have to pay an entrance fee to shop.
So I have to pay you to pay you. That's what it is. Them white people come and tell me, you know. Do you see the power? Well, boy, this is one time I really wish a white person not put that forward for me to do this grocery, you know, because I'm telling you, line up with people lining up by the door, lining up and throwing the money at it. But it's why somebody looking like them, they don't trust, lack of trust. Where he know, he's a Monroe, Monroe's a this, Monroe's a that. And when he asked the question, okay, what did I do? What's
talking about that?
What's you have with me? I don't know. I hear you think.
Well, I mean, Keenan, talking about that as we wrap up this evening's program, Mr. Monroe, I have asked him, and he stated that he's going to join us on set tomorrow evening. Again, anybody who have issues. Sorry? The
time.
It's 11:44.
No.
Sorry. I mean, tomorrow our program is going to begin from 4 p.m. It's a special 1 hour 45 minutes program from 4 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. Synergy TV. But as we wrap up the discussion, thank you so much to our viewing audience. I have one final question. Do you think it's too late for the African community to move forward?
Once there's one African person and an African spirit, like any other human being, with conviction and faith, it is never too late. And our people, all we need is a little inspiration, a little motivation, and then the opportunities will be revealed to us, because there's always opportunities there to see. But I'll always tell people this. How long I have? I have a minute to talk?
Yeah.
All right. If it is you buying a car, and by the time you like that car and you look, all of a sudden you're seeing that car all over the place. It's not that the car wasn't there before. You set your mind to think about it. So what I need people to do is start thinking about unity and success in your community, and opportunities will reveal itself for that to happen.
Thank you so much for joining us on set this afternoon, Keenan Monroe. Thank you so much to our viewing audience. Thank you so much to all of you who participated in this evening's program. Be sure to join us tomorrow. Same place, different time, from 4 o'clock. To 5:45, we are going to have, Oh gosh, well, I apologize. We're going to have a special guest. Mr. William Monroe is going to be joining us in studio to discuss race relations in Trinidad and Tobago. You've been watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, to 5:45 p.m.